Some stories don't have an ending. They just stop. Derrick Lewis vanished from Northwood, leaving his truck, wallet and keys behind on a lonely logging road. The search found only a single muddy footprint, strange pine cones, and silence. In these woods, answers fade and the questions linger, haunting unresolved. Before he was a headline, before he was a ghost story whispered around campfires, Derrick Lewis was just a man. He was 34 years old, a mechanic with calloused hands and a quiet smile. Friends described him as reliable, almost predictable. He followed the same routine every day. Wake up before dawn, work at the local garage, and spend his evenings either at home or hiking the familiar trails that webbed the surrounding forest. He wasn't a thrill seeker. He wasn't known to have any enemies. He was, by all accounts, an ordinary man living an ordinary life, which makes his extraordinary disappearance all the more terrifying. The mystery begins with the mundane. On that Sunday, Derrick told his roommate he was going for a short drive, a common practice for him to clear his head. He was expected back in an hour or two. He never returned. His truck was found the next morning, parked cleanly on the shoulder of a remote service road known as Old Mill Pass. The driver's side door was left slightly ajar, as if he had stepped out for only a moment. Inside, everything was in its place. His phone was on the passenger seat. His wallet was tucked into the console and a half-finished bottle of water sat in the cup holder. Investigators were immediately baffled. There were no signs of a struggle, no indication of foul play at the scene. It was as if Derrick had simply parked his truck, stepped out into the wilderness and ceased to exist. The forest floor around the vehicle was covered in a damp carpet of pine needles, making it nearly impossible to find clear footprints. The only distinct mark was a single deep impression of his work boot pointing directly into the dense, dark woods. It was a step into nothingness, a final, silent statement before the world he knew vanished behind him. This is where the story fractures. This is the point where logic fails and a chilling dread begins to creep in. How does a man, a capable and experienced woodsman, disappear without a trace from a place he knew like the back of his hand? Why would he leave behind his phone, his money, his very identity? The questions piled up, one on top of the other, forming a wall of impenetrable mystery. The search for Derrick Lewis soon became a search for answers, but the forest offered none. It only offered more questions and a silence that felt older and more profound than the trees themselves. Derrick Lewis was a man of habit, quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in Northwood. He fixed engines, preferred the woods to crowds, and never strayed from routine. That's why his disappearance is so unsettling. People like Derrick don't just vanish, leaving everything behind. For him to be gone, something truly extraordinary must have happened. But even the most ordinary picture can have cracks if you look closely enough. While most saw Derrick as a man of simple contentment, a few accounts hint at something else lurking beneath the surface. His roommate Mark later told investigators that in the weeks leading up to his disappearance, Derrick had become withdrawn. He was quieter than usual, which was saying something for a man who already valued silence. Mark recalled Derrick staring out the window for long stretches, his gaze fixed on the dark tree line that bordered their property. When asked what was wrong, Derrick would just shake his head and say he was tired. This wasn't the only oddity. A week before he vanished, Derrick had a strange conversation with a co-worker at the garage. He reportedly asked his colleague if he had ever felt like he was being watched, even when he was completely alone in the woods. He described a feeling of eyes on his back, a persistent prickling sensation that made the hairs on his arms stand up. His co-worker laughed it off, blaming it on the isolation of the forest playing tricks on the mind. But Derrick didn't seem convinced. He seemed genuinely troubled, as if a familiar comfort had been replaced by a new, unseen threat. Then there were the maps. While cleaning out Derrick's room, his family found several topographical maps of the Northwood National Forest spread across his desk. This wasn't unusual in itself, as he was an avid hiker. What was strange were the markings. He had circled several remote, almost inaccessible areas deep within the forest's uncharted territory. These weren't established trails or scenic spots. They were just patches of dense, old-growth timber miles from any road. Beside one of the circles, he had written a single cryptic word in small, neat letters. Loud. No one knew what it meant. These small details paint a different portrait of Derrick Lewis. Not of a man who was lost, but perhaps of a man who was looking for something. Or maybe something was looking for him. Was his quietness a sign of depression, or was it a symptom of a deeper, more primal fear? Were the maps a plan for an adventure, or were they a desperate attempt to understand a new and terrifying presence in his life? These cracks in the canvas of his ordinary life don't provide answers. They only deepen the shadows, pulling the mystery further into the realm of the unknown and the unsettling. October 14th, 2018 began like any other Sunday for Derrick Lewis. He was calm, dressed in hiking gear, sipping coffee by the window. Mark, his roommate, remembers the normalcy, except Derrick left his favorite hiking stick behind. A small detail, but in a case with no answers, small details are all you have. Derrick's drive to Old Mill Pass was routine, until he stopped at a small gas station. Security footage shows him using a payphone, not his cell, for a 5-minute call to an untraceable number. He looked tense, glancing over his shoulder, then stared into the woods for a minute before leaving. He bought nothing, spoke to no one, and left no clues. The call's recipient was never identified. Afterward, Derrick's behavior grew more secretive. This wasn't a casual detour. It was a deliberate, secretive act. What was he hiding, and did it lead to his disappearance? Derrick was last seen by Carol Peterson, who spotted him on Old Mill Pass talking to a tall, dark figure at the forest's edge. She described the exchange as tense, with Derrick gesturing anxiously. The other person stood unnaturally still, face obscured. Minutes later, both were gone. Only Derrick's truck remained. No evidence of the second person was ever found. Was this a meeting gone wrong, or something stranger? Carol's account deepens the mystery, hinting at a disturbing encounter. After that encounter, Derrick vanished. His truck was left with the door open, keys, wallet, and phone inside, signs he meant to return. Only a single footprint led into the woods, then nothing. Search teams, dogs, and drones found no further trace. The forest gave back only silence. Derrick left no trail, no sign of struggle, no call for help. It was as if he stepped into the trees and was erased. The searchers were baffled. The woods held their secret. Derrick's disappearance became a chilling question mark. Where did he go? Derrick's roommate reported him missing after he failed to return. Police found his truck undisturbed, door ajar, belongings inside. The initial search was methodical but quickly turned desperate. Search dogs traced Derrick's scent to the single footprint, then lost it. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. Even seasoned rescuers were unsettled. The first 48 hours yielded nothing but fear and confusion. Hope faded as the forest kept its silence. Northwood's community joined the search, scouring every hidden corner. No clues surfaced. No tracks, no belongings, nothing. The forest's silence felt oppressive, almost intentional. Sheriff Brody admitted defeat. The case defied logic. Whispers of old legends and strange lights grew louder. The search for Derrick became a story of fear and folklore. The woods had claimed him, and the town's imagination. Weeks passed, and the official search ended. Detectives re-examined every lead. Nothing new emerged. The payphone call and the shadowy figure remained unsolved mysteries. Derrick's life showed no signs of secrets or plans to disappear. The case file closed with more questions than answers. For Northwood, Derrick became a legend, a ghost story haunting the pines. The law called it a dead end, the town called it a nightmare. Section 4, the Pinecone Ritual. Just when it seemed the investigation had exhausted all avenues, a bizarre discovery was made. Two teenagers riding dirt bikes on a little-used trail about a mile from where Derrick's truck was found stumbled upon something strange. In a small, secluded clearing, they found an odd arrangement on the ground. It was a perfect circle about 6 feet in diameter, meticulously laid out with hundreds of pine cones. In the exact center of the circle was a single gray riverstone, smooth and flat. It was clearly not a natural formation. It was deliberate, precise, and deeply unsettling. The teens, spooked by the discovery, reported it to the sheriff's department. When investigators arrived, they were struck by the ritualistic nature of the scene. The pine cones were all placed with their pointed ends facing inward toward the central stone. There were no footprints inside or around the circle, despite the soft earth, as if it had been assembled without anyone physically touching the ground. The area was photographed, documented, and carefully searched for any connection to Derrick. They found no direct evidence, like clothing fibers or DNA, linking him to the site. However, one detail sent a chill through the investigative team. They remembered the cryptic word found written on the map in Derrick's room, loud. While the word itself seemed nonsensical, one of the older deputies, a man who had grown up on local legends, recalled an old piece of folklore. It was a story about the Silent Ones, ancient spirits of the forest who could only be communicated with through specific quiet rituals. According to the legend, these rituals were meant to appease the spirits, and if done incorrectly, they could be loud and offensive, attracting their unwanted attention. The Pinecone Circle was never officially linked to Derrick's disappearance. It was logged as an unusual finding and filed away. To law enforcement, it was a dead end, likely the work of pranksters or local occultists. But for those who knew Derrick, and for those who had heard the growing whispers in town, the circle felt like something more. Was this what Derrick was looking for? Was this what he had marked on his map? Did he attempt some long-forgotten ritual, hoping to communicate with something in the woods, only to make a fatal mistake? The discovery didn't provide answers. It only created darker, more terrifying questions. Section 1, a human predator. The simplest theory is often the most brutal. Derrick Lewis was taken. The mysterious figure seen by Carol Peterson becomes the central suspect, a human predator lurking at the edge of the woods. Perhaps Derrick's payphone call arranged a fatal meeting. The vast wilderness offers countless hiding places for a careful killer, yet this theory leaves unsettling questions, an incomplete, darker puzzle. Some believe Derrick wasn't taken by a person, but by the land itself. The forest is unforgiving. One wrong step, a hidden ravine, and you vanish without a trace. Searchers found nothing, no clues, no tracks, just endless, silent woods. It's as if the land itself decided to keep Derrick's secret forever lost to the wilderness. In Northwood, the forest is more than trees. It's a place of ancient whispers and unseen guardians. Legends tell of the silent ones, protectors who move without a sound, watching those who trespass too far. Derrick's feeling of being watched was real, a warning from the old world. Here, the forest's mysteries endure, untouched by modern logic. The most chilling theory is that Derrick Lewis found a place where reality breaks down, a door to nowhere. In these strange zones, people can simply vanish, leaving no trace. Perhaps Derrick stepped into the unknown and the world closed behind him forever. Years have passed since Derrick Lewis vanished, but for Northwood, time has stopped. The same fog rolls in, the same pines stand watch, but everything feels different now. A quiet anxiety lingers, and the forest is no longer just a backdrop. It's a place of secrets. Parents warn their children, and the story of Derrick Lewis has become the town's chilling reminder. Some questions are never answered. For the world, Derrick Lewis's disappearance is a mystery, but for those who loved him, it's a wound that never heals. His absence haunts every room, every memory. They live suspended between hope and grief, haunted by questions with no answers. Derrick is a ghost in their lives, defined by his sudden, absolute absence. Derrick Lewis vanished in a familiar forest, leaving behind every tool of survival. The clues are contradictions, the facts dead ends. Did he fall prey to a predator, the wilderness, or something ancient in the woods? The forest keeps its secrets. The question remains, what happened to Derrick Lewis? In the end, we are left exactly where we started, on a lonely logging road, staring at an empty truck and a single footprint pointing toward an impenetrable wall of trees. The story of Derrick Lewis is not a solvable equation. It's a void. It's a chilling piece of music that stops abruptly in the middle of a measure, leaving a discordant note hanging in the air forever. Every attempt to impose logic or reason onto the facts of this case is like trying to catch mist in your hands. The narrative crumbles, leaving only the unsettling dust of the unexplained. The case has become a modern myth, a testament to the terrifying idea that sometimes there are no answers to be found. We can endlessly debate the theories, cycling through the possibilities of a human killer, a tragic accident, or a supernatural encounter. We can analyze the strange evidence, the payphone call, the pinecone circle, the final tense conversation, but none of it brings us any closer to the truth. Derrick Lewis remains suspended in the amber of that autumn day, a man who walked out of his life and into a story. He has become more than a missing person. He is a symbol of the profound and terrifying mysteries that still exist at the edges of our well-lit world, a permanent resident of the space between the known and the unknowable. Perhaps the most disturbing truth is that there may be no truth at all, no single explanation that ties all the bizarre threads together. Maybe it was just a perfect storm of unrelated strangeness, a series of coincidences that led to a tragic but ultimately mundane end. Or maybe, just maybe, Derrick found what he was looking for in those woods. Perhaps he found a door, a thin spot in the world, and simply stepped through. We are left with nothing but the chilling silence he left behind, a silence that asks a question we can never hope to answer. What really happened on Old Mill Pass? The case of Derrick Lewis will likely remain unsolved. It will continue to be a ghost story whispered in the dark, a cautionary tale about the shadows that lurk just beyond our sight. It serves as a stark and terrifying reminder that no matter how much we think we understand our world, there are still silences deep enough to swallow a person whole, leaving behind nothing but an echo. And for Derrick Lewis, that echo is all that remains, an echo in the void, a question that hangs, forever unanswered, among the silent watching trees.